All right, what's going on, friends? This is a very, very weird, impromptu sort of live stream. I've done Car-versations before, or what was, I don't even remember what it was originally, but Car-versations became the catchy tune for this segment because I sit in my car and talk to people. But Bonzo here is a friend that's been along for the ride for a few, like a year now, probably, maybe a little more.
Yeah. Some people know me as Snick, Demented, O-fluent or Oaf. Yeah.
Shit talker extraordinaire, as it were. Um, but the so we wanted to run a new sort of idea. Well, I guess by ourselves, something we've talked about doing for a while, having topics or articles that we can bring up and bounce around because Bonzo is a bit more like liberal in nature. I guess more left than myself. I guess is probably the safer way of putting it. So we thought it'd be a good way to sort of approach different topics because we don't agree on a lot of stuff, though we have a good amount of respect for one another. Um, so yeah, so this is sort of the test run of that. But it's weird calling you Bonzo.
Well, you can call me whatever the hell feels natural. Just don't. I mean, you can even use my real name because you know it, but I don't care. So,
I've thought about
um,
that, but I don't want to. I don't want to do it if it's something you don't want. You know.
my name is so vanilla Irish. If you used it, good Godspeed you. Because in my high school there was like
It's true.
a, 1,000 of us. So, yeah.
Uh, so, yeah, hello, Jerry Crow. I see you in chat. It's a little easier to see chat through StreamYards. Nuclear, good to see you. And for those who are lurking, we're doing a test run of a format for Car-versations and even stuff beyond Car-versations. Like this could be a segment that I'm actually sitting in my home for and not just like on the go. Though a lot of these things sort of pop up, and Bonzo and I chat quite a bit when I'm driving. So it might be something that starts there. And my beard is getting quite gray. Beard is getting quite gray, but it's just in the sun at the moment.
That's because of your
Um,
son. Wait, do I look like John Bonham? Because I thought he was clean shaven.
I don't know. Um, so where are we going to start? I mean, so you sent me a bunch of articles. Um,
You ignore
where
it
do you think
constantly. Yeah.
I ignore them sometimes, but very recently I've been doing my best to actually read them because some of them, I don't know. A lot of the stuff you sent me recently has been Israel Palestine stuff because
Mm-hmm.
I knew nothing about it, and you sent me some good articles and even good live streams to follow, and that's like I don't know. I'm into learning and understanding things that I don't understand. So and I mean and that's why you're here because you are also you're not opposition, but you're someone who's not afraid to push back or tell me you're full of shit or shut the fuck up. You know
Well, no, I,
that
I respect you, so I of course will tell you to shut the fuck up whenever I can.
right?
Sorry, we're over 30 seconds, so we should be good. But yeah,
Yep.
no, I always tell you if I think you're wrong, even when you challenge me and convince me otherwise. So, although I'm not, I'm maybe technically more left. I'm more liberal. I think I prefer liberal. I don't like left anymore.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. So where should we start? What out of the articles you sent me recently, where do you think is a good place to go? Maybe something that's
Oh my
you
god.
might think.
There's so many. Let me scroll up. One thing I saw today that made me laugh was I don't know if you saw it. The WHO, the WHO, World Health Organization, is pushing for a global um, healthcare is a human right and should
Oh
be
boy.
somehow implemented across the globe. That's one that I read a little bit on. I was like, "Ooh, that's fun for you to talk about." But since yeah, it's right there.
Well, I mean, and so I guess we start where you sit on that because I feel like liberals in general think, well, healthcare is a right and everyone deserves it. Is that can we let's start from that spot? Is that something that you believe is that the world should provide people with healthcare?
Um, Yes and no. I'm always conflicted. I do think that any society, well, it's the old saying. You can always tell a society by how they treat the old
Hmm.
and the young,
Right.
and especially how they treat the dead and the unborn. Um, so I always err on the side of it's good to take care of people, um, but that aid has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, and it's hard on a micro level to decide that. It's really hard on a macro. With an organization like this, the WHO, who's pushing for this, it was one thing I thought would be fun for you to talk about because I don't know how the hell they do this. Who pays for it? And even funnier, I think the conference was in, hold on, let me pull up the article. It was in Kazakhstan, which
Really.
is, yeah, that's where the gathering is this time for these elites talk about world healthcare.
Kazakhstan
Um,
isn't that the place that fucking what's his name is from? Uh the Sacha Baron Cohen character.
no, he had some like weird other sort of close, but not quite name, I think.
What is that character's name? Oh,
Oh Jesus,
why can't I think of his name?
because
Very
nobody.
nice. I
Very
like
nice. Yeah. Sasha, do I got to Google it for you since you're driving? Sasha
Borat. Isn't that where
Borat.
Borat's from? Well,
Hold
see,
on.
this strikes me as so. This, as you're like, if you want to read through whatever, start looking at that article. Like, well, my initial thought is this seems something exactly like the Paris Agreement or the Paris Accords, where the
Mhm.
United States foots most of this bill, and then lots of countries say they're going to pay into it, but never actually do. Um,
Mhm.
and then again, then we're paying for God knows what in other countries.
Mhm.
Um, Again, and I don't necessarily disagree with the sentiment that you can tell a lot of by a nation by how it treats its elderly and its young, and even the unborn. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, like that's what like my initial gut feeling is the U.S. and other Western nations are going to front load the fuck out of this thing, and everyone else is going to be on easy street. They're going to say they're going to contribute to it, but they're not really going to. They're just going to suckle the teat, and and
Well,
again, to the expense of the American taxpayer.
I mean, potentially. Oh, real quick, Jerry Crow confirmed that yeah, Borat is from Kazakhstan. So
Okay,
I thought
okay,
it
that's what
was
I
made
thought.
up, but apparently it's not. Uh, yeah, I don't know how they would do that. Like because of the recent crises, I've discovered some of the limitations of the EU. So I'm not sure how anything would be covered. Again, it's nice in practice, but culturally, we're also still buzzword diverse. I don't even know how the hell we'd even go into that. Who'd pay for it? Even the EU, apparently America is the front loader of all of it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we
it's
don't even take care of our own people. So,
yeah, and that's I get. I mean, if I'm going to throw on the tinfoil hat, I would say, well, this is just another way the new world order is established. It's like we're trying to create this one sort of homogenous world government, but we don't like. There's so many different cultures out there that something think things are okay and others that don't. I mean, it's
mhm.
a fairly vague way of putting it, but I think you kind of understand where I'm coming from. Like what
Well,
what works in the U.S. might not work, in some other country,
well,
Japan, China, Russia.
well, even here, I only know about our health system. We've got like a social safety net, which has some health care for some people, and we've got privatized. Um, Other places I know vary. I know, like in the EU, in various places, like in like Sweden, other spots, you've got healthcare, but I know Count Dankula. He was talking a while back about when his wife was pregnant. They were on a wait list for 6 months to get in for something.
That's
And like,
wild.
well, for me personally, my dad was a vet, so he predominantly had VA benefits, and I know for him the wait list was crazy. And there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of jumping through hoops, and it was, um, to put it plainly, fucked. So while I like the idea of a universal basic like healthcare system, the ones we have in play are not good. So I don't even know how the hell we would do this across the globe when we can't even do it in places that are small. Like
Yeah, that
VA, there's not a lot of vets. There's a lot, but not a lot. And in the UK, there's even less people, and there's worse stuff. So I
yeah,
don't even know how the hell we would even begin to do something like this.
yeah. That's
And
I go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, it's a nice fantasy, which I would love to be a thing, but it seemed like with socialism, like there's some aspects of that I'm like, oh, I can appreciate that, but that works in a very tiny pocket. But the more you
Right.
expand that iris, the worse it gets.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am with it. It's like it's a great idea, but like it's kind of contingent upon who's in power at the time, and we can't even run the VA properly or get them the health care that they need a lot of times. I mean, you hear horror stories all the time
Well,
about
I've
the
I've got my
insane
own
waiting
with my
lists. So
dad, so yeah.
right. Well, and not in or something just not even being available. Um, so yeah, it's really and I don't know, like I like the idea that there could be some form of basic health care for people, but I don't know. I'm just there's parts of me that thinks there we by doing that we put too much stock in our government to take care of us, and is that what's best for people? Like, should we be relying on them to provide and should we be relying on them to provide the healthcare that's needed, or the rules of which we need to abide uh, to create that healthcare? I don't know, man. It's
Well, there's no perfect system. Like right now, most people exist in a healthcare system where you pay into it, like every month, and it varies dramatically. I remember when Obamacare came out, um, it was a really nice pipe dream. And I actually worked with a girl. I remember her and I got into a conversation. This was, God, I don't even remember how long ago, 15 years ago, when that was probably less than that. But she was praising Obamacare. She was a single black mother with 4 kids,
yeah,
and that's fine. But for her, she was like, "Oh no, I can do it was like this like tiny thing." And I am a was a single white male, no kids, nothing. My copay that I had to pay every month was insane if I didn't have insurance,
yeah,
and nothing was covered. She's like, I can get this like weird, like kind of cosmetic thing that would improve her quality of life. And for me, I'm like, I have to pay a shitload and I get half the benefits. And I'm like,
yeah,
there's no system in play that works well. And especially in a world now where everything is this intersectional weird miasma. I don't even know how it would work. And when you bring in other countries and other civilizations and other things, I'm like, how's it paid for? And if you go the socialist route, there's no motivation for there to be doctors. So I'm like,
well,
I don't even know how this system would work beyond a pipe dream, which the Who for me works in pipe dreams a lot of times.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't. Yeah, I would say that's. I don't know, and I feel like normal people they hear headlines like this and they're like, oh yeah, like we can all be taken care of, but you know they forget the VA. I mean, even Medicaid to an extent, which is essentially socialized healthcare.
No, it's
Um,
no. That is actually like a weird nomenclature thing that's going around. It's not a socialist kind of thing.
No, I'm saying, yeah,
It is a socialized because we do have the net,
right.
which a lot of people say that takes away from like meritocracy. Um, but again, America is a weird spot where we try to take care of those under, and we try to let those on top succeed. And we've moved bizarrely away from all of it. But I think we do need that safety net at some point. So when you pay into a system until you get old enough, you need to be able to have something for you.
Well, and these things too, like I can't help but think that like the solution to them is like healthcare, like taking care of, you know, whatever medical needs you need. Like when we start getting into the government paying for them, or finding a way for a government system to take care of its citizens, I think we're so far removed from the actual answer, and we're pruning the very ends of an out of control tree when we should be like treating the roots, right? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that's where we are with a lot of stuff, is we don't treat root causes, and that's where like people like myself sometimes get into the mud a bit, because I don't have a direct legislative solution to it. It's more of like a we need to pay more attention close to home, and we need to take like value, like, you know, for at the risk of sounding cliche and ultra conservatives, like value that nuclear family. If we have people that are more minded in their home life, and staying together, you know, a lot of this stuff doesn't necessarily work itself out, but you find that you have your family is willing to take care of one another, where now it's like everyone seems so divided over bullshit that they're like, I'm not going to fucking do that. I'm not going to pay for you to whatever. Like, where there's been a few times where family has helped me because, you know, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
we've just been, I don't know, like it sounds cliche, but I think oftentimes the solution is a more long drawn out process, and everyone gets pissed because I can't say, well, Washington could do this and solve all of our problems. Cut us a check for $1,200, you know?
Well, as you said, it's because we're more divided than we've ever been. We could find a balance, but nobody has wanted balance in years.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I laugh about things like universal basic income and universal health care in America. It could work, um, especially because we're going more automotive, or not automotive, but like industrialized,
Right.
and we're moving away more from people doing things.
Or automating things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're getting into the AI stuff now, because
Yeah.
everything's, yeah, they just have a computer learn it and do it for you.
Well, yeah, like there's a guy I watch, the Adam and Sitch, or Sitch and Adam show.
Yep.
Adam Brennan goes on about how we need a universal basic income because we're going to start automating everything, and we're going to need things to help basic people. But to do that, you need to increase taxes. But taxes for a lot of people is death, which it is. But as opposed to looking for a balance and a way to make it work, we've got one side who wants to raise your taxes like 80% and we live like we've got nothing, or the other side who wants no taxes and the roads are going to crack and be decrepit and businesses can go crazy. And it'd be nice
Well,
if
it
we
all
could go.
comes,
Mhm.
yeah, it's just weird. I just want to respond to that real quick. It's weird because people act as if, like, well, they act as if they're helpless. Like, oh, if government doesn't fix my roads, it'll never get done. And it's like, oh my God, like, I can't stand that argument, like, most of the time, because we've become so reliant on systems
Mhm.
above us to do things. And this is like part of like the essay I'm writing about AI. is, at the risk of sounding like a Luddite, like there's some things that we've just completely gotten away from, and it's because of advancement in technology and automation. Our lives have become so easy that we've forgotten like the care it takes to build something. We're preoccupied with non-issues that we've made into issues, and we're victims because of it. It's a really unfortunate place to be. Like, we are the first world, but we act as if we live in a third world. I mean, not everyone, but there's some that you would think that, like in 2023, that they're living in this like oppressive, slave state or something.
Well, agree and disagree. Like, in a lot of regards, we do live kind of an oppressive slave state. Like, God, even like the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, was done through like some kind of weird committee. How can you push people to their limits to work? I don't know. Like, I don't know the actual answer, because again, everyone's so divided at this point. But it's also like, even people who say they're conservative Republicans, everyone looks top down, not bottom up.
Right.
And it'd be better if everybody focused on bottom up.
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying about being like attacking the roots, not the leaves at the top of the tree. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, like, everybody knows what AOC or Ilhan Omar or fucking these other people say every day. They couldn't name a single person probably in their modern government, as your phone goes off. Yep. But I don't know, like, there's ways it could be done, but again, that's why this initial thing kind of flipped me out, because nobody's been able to solve this problem with like basic universal healthcare locally. And then we've got these huge institutions trying to do it globally. And I'm like, there's no way so many people are gonna be screwed from this.
Well, that's the question. So now the question is, or something I think about, and it might be really bad. Maybe I shouldn't even say it out loud.
Do it.
Well, like, what? I mean, I don't believe that healthcare is a right necessarily. And if it were, like, we live in a weird world where I want to try and save everyone that's possible, but we have to come to terms with the fact that not everyone can be saved. And again, that doesn't mean that I want people to go to die, or, like, I want to have as much medical treatment and advancement as possible, but like, I don't know, like, it's a hard thing to work through, and it's certainly not the World Health Organization's business to try and save everyone, because I don't believe that that's their end goal anyway.
No, I think they, at least I hope they intend well, but they live on such a perch they can't see the ground to the trees. I can say, as somebody who's seen the whole cycle of life, that I appreciate the safety nets and various things that we have in front of us.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying we should abandon them. Like, I've benefited from these social safety nets for sure, and I think having them available is good. It kind of comes down to, like, we're in a place where, because life is so easy, we forget how hard life can be, and a lot of times that's what pushed us to the next. We're here because someone else worked really fucking hard to make our lives easier, but we still forgot, like, that life needs purpose, and we're fighting. People are fighting a current that doesn't exist. Like, they can't even find purpose, and it's do you kind of get what I'm saying? And it sort of seems to trickle through everything. Well, now we're fighting about, like, who am I in my own head? Like, it's a weird place to be.
Well, to go back to the root of that, I think it's because one, conservatism has dropped the ball a shitload, and progressivism has gone insane. Um, we always relied upon our family to be able to take care of things. Society moved to a point to where we have less kids, we're more estranged, we feel less connected. Um, so we need something like that. Um, but I don't know quite the right answer for that question. Um, Again, I just saw somebody read saying the Who is not a force for good. Um, Name a force for good, dude. Um, most institutions at some point become corrupt. A lot of them at the basis have a good intention, and a lot of them think they have a good intention. But everything gets lost in the weeds a lot. It'd be nice if we could have quality of life and take care of our people. But again, like Red said, like it's not a force for good. So do we abandon it? And even as you said, maybe it should all be released in the wind like a feather. What do we do for the people who need something who have nothing? Like, should they go out like a dog who just like go outside, lays down, and dies?
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem at any moment in time is any change will sometimes leave people behind because there's like you give someone money who can't manage money, they're gonna like 99% of the time, maybe that's a little high, but most of the time they're gonna squander every penny of that because the reason
Mm-hmm.
they don't have money is because they can't manage it. So giving somebody money who can't
Mm-hmm.
manage money, you know what I mean? Like it so like this is like it's a generational problem that needs to be solved. And it like, do I want people left behind? No. I think some of the people that were given money could possibly turn their life around. But look at anyone who wins the lottery. I mean, almost all those people go bankrupt very quickly or lose
Yeah.
all of their money very fast because I
What's a
mean, there's a reason
lottery?
they don't have it. Right.
Well, is somebody who unfortunately at some point was in the system, who relied upon the social safety net to survive. Um, it's because, and again, it's the weird bifurcation of our system. Is I think we need that, but we need to, in some regards, and again, sadly, I know like say it needs to be funded more, which means more tax money. Is like if you've got unemployment, like any kind of healthcare, like food stamp programs, that stuff's good for people, but it's stretched thin. So it's
Yeah.
become a free for all for people to abuse it, and there's nobody to maintain and moderate
Well,
what's
that's the
being
thing
done.
is, yeah, and that's the thing is I think these systems can be corrected a bit, but and that's why like I don't necessarily disagree with some of these social safety nets because there are requirements to them. Like you can't get unemployment unless you've been employed. Um, like
Yeah.
you do pay into that. You
Mhm.
can't. I
Well,
mean
not
the
only
med.
that, you pay into it, but you're also reliant upon the company you work for who have gotten smarter to deny you. Like
Right.
unemployment, I think dropped down. I read a lot of articles years ago. A lot of people worked for Amazon during the COVID. Um, they let people go, and Amazon is shrewd enough to be able to deny people once they let them go when there was no ability to get other work to
Yeah.
deny them unemployment. So again, there's so many systems, and there's like even our infrastructure. I remember even during Obamacare, it crashed. Our like American systems have been hacked because they don't put money into the infrastructure or hire people who can actually do coding. Like I don't know, it's just it's an imperfect system who tries well, like most systems. And again, as somebody who hates taxes, um, I know we need to find a way, but we also need to hire better people to moderate that shit. Like even
Yeah.
unemployment, I remember when I was on unemployment for about 6, 7 months, you could go to any message board and learn how to build the system, and you could live off of it for years. And there was nobody there to catch you because they were all stretched thin.
Right. And then like it goes back to too, like the universal basic income argument. If all your basic needs are met, like, so then what are you just like, you're living for like your extracurricular stuff? Like, it just doesn't seem like a formula for prosperity. It seems like a formula for complacency and also a reliance on the state. Um, and that
Mm-hmm.
to me seems like a huge recipe for disaster. Would I want all my utilities paid for and rent taken care of and like, oh man, would I ever want my fucking mortgage paid for and I could just take all that money and put it into vacations? But like again, what does this teach you? What does it teach the individual about money management, hard work, and all that stuff? I know it sounds shitty to say, oh, you can't get your basic needs met. Well, too bad. Like I don't want to say that to somebody,
Mm-hmm.
but there's far more prosperity in learning how to find enjoyment in your work, finding purpose, um, building a family, all of that stuff. And but again, you can't legislate the need for the individual to have this knowledge. They just have to want it, or they need the positive influences around them. And how do you do that? Well, I guess I'll treat the roots of it. I want to put good people together. I want people to take the time to know each other, to love each other, line up their values, and raise good families that want to do the exact same thing. You're going to lose people along the way, 100%, but you stand a far better chance at pushing that to people than saying, "Oh no, just let the government pay for your health care. Let them give you a check every month so you can get your basic needs met." Oh
Mm-hmm.
man, it just seems like a recipe for total complete disaster.
Well, again, it's because our infrastructure, our government programs, as much as people like to think that the government has this over encompassing broad blah, 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 anyone who's been in the system knows it's completely screwed. And again,
Yeah.
I censored there. Um, I remember going down there and dealing with them, and they were overworked and they were underpaid, and they dealt with the most well-meaning and the most like lazy, corrupt, whatever people. And they had no resources to wade through any of it.
There's a
And
real quick. Oh, go ahead. Finish up your point. Then I want to read what Jerry said.
that's fine.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
He said, "Healthcare. Oops. Healthcare points you drive home. I'd like I'd like to hear your take on a profit motive versus socialist school system, especially looking at the prowess of individuals." Um,
I know what the hell that means.
yeah, I'm having trouble understanding what you mean. Maybe you can explain a little bit more,
Yeah, if you can
because
extrapolate, Jerry, that'd be great.
it sounds like an interesting question to answer. I'm trying to think profit motive. Like, are you talking about like private schools versus like public schools? Um,
Well, the thing is like socialism is great on paper, but it works better when you've got a small system.
Oh,
Once
U.S.
you,
schools versus Nordic schools. I don't know much about Nordic schools. I'd have to, Jerry, if you're in my Discord, I would like if you could drop me any sort of articles or information on Nordic schools. I would really like to read about how they might differ from U.S. schools. The big
mm,
issue I see with U.S. schools is that the Department of Education has been a giant waste of money, and has been little to no benefit for public school kids. I mean, I'm a product of public school,
it
but
shows.
right. Um, but you look at a lot of these big inner city schools that are getting $12,000 to $15,000 a student essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't read above a fourth grade level,
And that's a
and they're
for
dropped.
profit.
Right.
I think I know what Jerry's talking about. I had a buddy who um, fell in love with a girl from Denmark, and he moved out there, and they had a kid and all that stuff. And I heard a little bit about the school system there. Like I know a lot of socialists like to prop up Denmark as this socialized haven. It's not. They are a royalty based that use a pretty big system of capitalism, which has a pretty healthy socialized system. Um, they pay a crap load in taxes.
Yeah.
Um, like like a DVD, like back then for us was $10. For them, buying like a basic bitch DVD was like $60.
Oof.
They grew cheese in caves, which he told me was actually pretty good. Um, but their healthcare system and their school systems were great, and even through college, it was paid for like through the government, but you had to go into a field that the Denmark society needed you to do.
Holy
Like
shit!
this
Real
one.
quick,
Mhm.
Jerry said he's finished. So he's from Finland. I saw this video the other day.
Uh-oh.
It was on TikTok, of course. This woman was like, "Yeah, Finland. It's a conspiracy. It doesn't exist. It's actually." She was like, "It's
No, that's
actually this
Australia.
this fishing community for Japan. So they have a secret area, and it's not real." Have you ever met someone from Finland? I can't believe it. It's so funny that you're from Finland, dude.
Oh, Jerry is our token Finlander.
It was so. This woman was dead serious saying this, and the guy was like,
Mhm.
"I've never met anyone from Finland," and I was just like, "Oh my god, this is the brain rot. It hurts."
Mhm.
Uh, anyways,
But yeah, no, with the schools there, again, they're taxed heavily. But the education, from what I've heard there, is great. But again, it's kind of, I think, the Franklin quote: "Those who give up freedom for security deserve none." Um, in some regards, America and people are trying to push for it, which in some regards we would improve. Um, you can tell where you live by the education. Um,
yeah,
Bad areas have terrible education. They afford lesser tier teachers. They have less books. They have less everything. Um, Better areas have better everything. But again, it's a problem of systems. Like it'd be nice if we delineated, but our government doesn't know how to do any of it. Like hell, even
yeah,
a lot of our politicians get in because their areas are screwed and the options suck. And like that's again, that's why I like some of the more socialized, like quote unquote, methods, but I also don't trust our government to actually do it correctly. And again, that's when I see the WHO does this stuff. I'm like, that's great. You're a bunch of hoity-toity dipshits, like living in your mansions, who say, "Oh, this should be a thing," and I'm like, they don't know what it's like on the ground.
yeah. Well, these things need that you need an incentive to get off of them, right? Like, so the incentive to get on them is, oh, like I lost my job, or oh, like I can't make ends meet right now, and so
Mhm.
you get WIC, or you're a single mom who has a kid, dad's out, died,
Mhm.
whatever. So you get these things to get you back on your feet, but then like, what's the incentive to get off once you're on? Well, there's none, because as of right now, there's none, because everything's taken care of you. Food stamps, you could eat filet mignon every night as a single mom on food stamps. It's insane.
Well, no,
Um,
that's because we don't. Again, we're going to disagree on this. We don't invest enough to improve these systems. I remember when I was in high school in the 90s, I had a friend who, well, quasi friend, who he was about to welcome his 12th sibling because the system didn't monitor anything. Mother didn't work, she stayed home. He had 11 siblings or 10 siblings. Um, Dad worked as hard as he could, but he had like a construction job, and to improve the money they had, they needed another kid.
yeah, but what do you mean by improve the system? So how? in your eyes, how does it improve? Because if you're going to improve the system, in my eyes, like again, it should be, the coffer should not be endless. There should be a limit to what is in there, and just having more
Mhm.
kids shouldn't be how you get more. Again, like,
Well, no, because there should be incentivizations, not in the system, but outside the system to improve your lot. Um, the thing is, our system exists on it has on a bare thread margin, and there are like you've got one person who's dealing with 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 people who need help, and you rubber stamp it. Yes, no. There's not enough in the system to look into it and actually whatever. It's the same thing with like the weird riots we had, the George Floyd riots. Um, like they wanted to, oh God, what was the term? Defund the police. When
yeah,
they actually needed to fund the police, because I talked to cops out here where I live, and I heard about the training they had and how understaffed they were and a razor thin margin they existed on and how stressed and overworked and everything else. And I'm like, these guys need more money to get more people and get better training. But the problem with that is you got to tax more. And it's just like, what do we do? Like, we either need to pull the ripcord and let it go chaos, like anarcho capitalist, whatever, or invest more into the system. But it's also why it gets weirder the more you zoom back and you deal more like globally or nationally than locally. Um, and again, it's a system we have not at all been able to deal with. Because I talked to so many cops that were overworked, stressed, and they paid for their own stuff. I'm like, these are the people who we rely on. Uh,
what about like I mean, what about you? I mean, like, break up these unions, like these police unions who protect shit cops. Like, allow them to self police a little bit better, because they don't do it during with all these fucking corrupt police unions. Like, again,
um,
is there incentivization right now to turn in shithead uh, cops who are, like, really doing shit wrong? Like, I mean, there's the audit. Those guys do work where they're out there looking at how police officers are handling uh, certain things. Like, but what is the incentivization to make these systems better within? Again, like, the reliance on government to make these things better, I think is the big issue too. It's like,
well,
well, less money, more money. What, like, well, yeah, I think, yes, that's part of it, but there's also the same thing with teachers unions. Teachers unions just protects the worst fucking people just to keep them there. Like, there's no incentive to be the best, because,
mhm.
well, we'll just kind of get along.
Well, I've spoken to a lot of people. I have family on both sides. The pros and cons in unions. Depending on where you are, unions are the devil or a godsend. I personally hate unions because any kind of institution is ripe for corruption.
Right.
And a lot of unions have been massively corrupted. Um, and again, it's also why, like I always said, like during the defund the police, it should be like we have systems in place that need to be restructured and reevaluated and fixed. But it's like having a wound that's pussy and inflamed, and you put a band-aid and you keep putting more and more and more band-aids on it. Like, you're not fixing anything, you're just kind of I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
unions to me are screwed. Like, I actually want to like if I could, I'd abolish all unions for about 5 years, because a lot of them have incentivized structures and they Yeah, a lot of them fill their
Why
pockets.
5 years? Wouldn't they just come back after 5 years and start the cycle again?
Well, let's see with our government. Like everybody, like I know with your sphere, want to like drain the swamp, and I think occasionally you need to put term limits and you need to drain. Like, but I also like I have the weird perspective is the person you want in charge is the last one who wants to have the job. And we allow people who run and get money to have positions.
Yeah, I've spoken a couple times about how I think even like elections need to like they need to cut out well the super PACs, but also like they're like if you're running for office, like maybe there's I don't know how you would implement it, but maybe there's a limit to how much you can spend on advertising, on signage or whatever. It's like here you guys have, you know, 30 grand that you can spend any way you want. Commercials, signage, whatever you want to do, but that's what you get. And that way everyone has a level playing field as far as like the, you know, and maybe that would incentivize the town halls a little bit more. Like, well, some of this is going to go to throwing a big town hall where we, you know, we provide fucking punch and pie for the town. They can come in, they can meet and greet with almost like a convention, but for local politicians or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to hear what they have to say in their room. They can do a debate, maybe do that once or twice, and then you vote based on like, well, we're going to vote based on this, and then but that gets into sticky like, well, you got to show that you actually showed up to these events and that you're able to vote because you were there present. You're not just like cast a vote because someone said so. But then you get into the sticky like, well, it's voter suppression garbage, you know?
Well, again, that's a weird catch-22. Is like, honestly, most people who can vote shouldn't be allowed to vote, but it is our constitutional right to do it.
Right.
And it's also why I wish people would look more locally. But everybody goes D or R. Like even my dad at the end of his life, he was a lifelong independent who voted predominantly Democrat, and then he went right wing because the Democrats went insane. But he started voting for everybody who had an R next to their name versus anything else. And that's
Yeah.
where we are now. It's like, what team are you on? I don't care what you stand for. I think there was a lesbian Satanist some shit who won an election who never showed up in some state a couple of years ago because they had a D next to their name. And I'm like, that's the state of our country. Is people
Yeah.
vote because they don't care
Tribal.
about policy. They just see a letter and they kind of go, yeah, this is the way we want to go.
I'm convinced 100% it's because we don't have anything to fight for anymore. There's no reason to live locally. Social media is the biggest scam going because it makes you think that you need to really be invested in every second of Israel versus Palestine. Like that is like the pay-per-view that everyone needs to tune into and give a crap about. And before that, it was, you know, pick your things. But nobody, I guess it comes down to lack of purpose. There's nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I got to get these things done, otherwise I'm dead. It's just, well, my hair is blue today, it's fading a little bit. Oh, like I'm oppressed because a man said that I'm not quite as good as, you know, like that's where we're at. We don't have any real reason to wake up in the morning other than like, I mean, that's how a lot of people treat the world. I mean, people with families understand like why they get up and what the motivation is and all that. But there's so many people out there who just, do you kind of get what I'm saying? Like we used like, I mean, when you have to grow your own food, when you have to hunt for your own food, when you have to worry about where clean water is coming from, all this stuff is trivial, you know, but, and it does something to your brain. It makes you interact with things with, again, more purpose. And we just don't have it. Every single person that's in this live or who's in the chat, you and I all suffer from it to some extent. We might be enlightened a little bit more about it, but we still fall into these same traps where, like, most of the time we could ignore this stuff and concentrate on building between our own four walls and in our community and making that better. It's why we talked this morning about how I thought, oh fuck, like maybe I should just give this up and start an after school program with these local kids, like maybe kids that just don't have a dad or that need to learn some greater social skills. Like that's the kind of shit that's really going to change this world and get better people as maybe politicians, better teachers. It's so fucking bizarre, man. I know I'm now I'm like getting a little whatever, but
Well, no, you're fine. No, I get what you're saying. I mean, I agree and disagree. Again, like we live in the information age. Like, yes, we're a sunspot flare or a nuclear bomb away from everything going back to zero, and then we will go horribly down, and a lot of people are going to die pretty quick. It's also like I told you earlier, like I don't know, like you can teach a man to fish. Some people need to learn how to fish.
yeah, I think that's a very succinct way of putting it.
But I don't know, like we live in an age where technology has grown so fast in a way that society was not like
Yeah.
mankind is not ready for how quickly we've expanded. We see what's going on overseas and it seems so much bigger than where we are. That's why I disagree with earlier statement you said about who cares what's going on here. I just read an article that in Minnesota there's people on dune buggies riding down waving Palestinian flags and causing absolute fucking chaos. Like we can dislike how modernized the world is. We need to adapt quickly, and that's not regressing to some kind of weird evangelical on the left or right side, either worshiping of the church of some god you think you know or some ideology you think you know.
Well, this is but the people in Minnesota, it's a product of the internet too. It's like, well, we, 50 less than 50 years ago, 30 years ago, you didn't know the this information didn't travel at the same speed. So like people could still go about their lives without, maybe a little bit longer than 30 years ago, but you know what I mean? Like 40, 50 years ago, people just lived their lives and they got the news and it was bad and whatnot, but they didn't make it their entire personality.
Nope. There are videos from over 50 years ago of people reading every Sunday, which is what we had, at least my generation, the newspaper once a week, and you would read about the Cold War and a nuke could come, and you would see those weird videos of like crawl under your desk if a nuclear bomb's happening, even though like
yeah, but don't you think that's different than being like beaten over the head every day, like every second of every day about it? Than like, I mean, people. I mean, it wasn't their entire personality, is what I mean. And because we have access to that information in real time, thousands and thousands of miles across the world, it's not about sitting down. I mean, I'm totally down for people sitting down once a week or twice a week to catch up on world news, but not every night, not every second. I mean, some people, it's their whole livelihood to follow this shit and enrage people one way or the other, and that has some effect that's maybe not so easy to calculate, but it's there. Like we are certainly in a much different place emotionally about things than we were. And I don't know, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but I think there's a healthy way to approach world events that still keep you in tune and keep your humanity together, but allow you to still live within your neighborhood and your township and city, state, and even country.
Well, no, I mean, you're not wrong. But again, I remember the newspaper, I remember the nightly news. There's always been a panic, and there's always going to be a panic. The problem is people are inundated more than ever. True.
Yeah.
But there's nobody saying stop, breathe, like go outside barefoot, put your feet in the grass, and work locally.
Okay,
Because
guys, this is us saying stop, breathe, go outside and touch grass.
yeah.
This is it. If I'm gonna make a difference, if we're gonna make a difference, it's right here. Stop and breathe, and maybe disconnect for just a second. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, Metastep came through with a $5 super chat. He said, "Whoop, I can't even read that."
Trans lesbian Satanist won in New Hampshire running as a Republican to prove that Republicans would vote for someone just because they had an R next to their name. That's what it was. Okay.
That's pretty dope. Like, I mean, it sucks, but like,
that was a great troll that did not get any press. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Oh man, I'm surprised it didn't though. You would think they would take some time to own the R's.
Well, no, like the leftists laughed about it for a couple days, and they got distracted by shiny things over there, and the right wing did not localize or incentivize people to pay attention. They wanted to ignore it. That's what happens on either side. One side goes, yeah, until the news cycle fades, and then the other side just ignores. So,
Red, they used to call touching grass God's Day for a reason, but oh well. No, I hear you.
wait, was God's Day Sunday?
I think so. That's the feeling I get.
Wait, wasn't Sunday originally? Was that Odin's Day?
I don't know. My phone battery is getting dangerously low, but I also have to. I wanted to keep this to about an hour, which is what we're hitting about now. I want to thank everyone who joined for the sort of test run for this, because I think we'll probably fine tune some stuff. But I do like the energy of the stream. I do like the conversation, Bonzo. It's been fun, but I do have to move along because I got my kids I got to bring to the doctor. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? How do you think this went?
Who, me or the chat?
No, you.
That was
You're
fun.
here. Good. No, I think it went good. I think it seemed organic. I think if we planned a little bit more, we could have even more back and forth, and then get some topics lined up. But yeah, chat if you can
hit a like, comment.
Yeah, like and comment. But join Discord if you want to hear us kind of go back and forth on stuff. This one we kind of agreed a little bit more than I think other times. But
I think I think we are kind of sort of aligned, but decently at odds. Again, once the video is over, make comments. If you want more of this, did we agree, disagree? Where do we go?
Yeah, no, it was fun. I definitely want to do more of it and plan them out and get some articles like pulled up, stuff that's more current events. We did kind of go in the weeds a little bit, and that's largely my fault. But I like talking about this stuff, and I think it kind of keeps the channel moving and the conversation moving. So thank you, chat, for joining. Bonzo, thank you, sir, for taking some time. I think you need to go get some sleep now because you said you haven't slept yet. Show us your tits. I can't, Mr. Grant Gregory. But yeah, no, we're gonna head out. Yeah, right. Check your DMs. But yeah, no, I'm gonna head out because, like I said, I got to get some stuff going with my kids, get them to the doctors, and then we'll see everyone next time. Appreciate y'all. Be good. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Toodles.